everyone. Country of origin, organic, non-GMO, grass-fed, antibiotic-free. What do all of these terms mean to me as a consumer? Today, shopping is not as easy as listing a product and grabbing it at the store. Consumers need to be educated to know what they are purchasing and why or why not to pay extra or seek out a particular type of product, especially when dealing with fresh produce. I am a health science consumer and strive to get the most health benefits from an economical point. My family raises both produce and livestock for the market, and understanding the value of certain ways of growing livestock or produce can impact the bottom line of our family farm. Therefore, understanding terms in today's markets can impact consumers and our purchasing habits as well as producers. So it is key for consumers to understand basic terminology found at the grocery store. It is helpful to find how labels are assigned and by whom, as well as recognize the extent the labels identify harmful or beneficial factors. And lastly, it is important to create knowledge so that consumers can make sound decisions for themselves. Understanding the terminology at the grocery store is important. First, let's look at organic versus non-organic. According to Minnesota Extension, most organic products meet the following criteria: not grown with conventional pesticides, fertilizers that are not synthetic, have not had radiation, or they have no bioengineering. So everything from the dirt it is grown in, the spray that is around it, and how it is cleaned impacts its label. Items that are organic are commonly priced higher than their counterparts. On the other hand, non-organic food is more mainstream. There are no specific rules on what type of fertilizers or chemicals are used in the growing of the products or how they are cleaned. Usually, these foods will not be specifically labeled at all. Next, let's consider the terms natural versus antibiotic or hormones. There is a belief that artificial hormones and antibiotics can be transferred from food products and impact our resistance to disease, or that the hormones can impact our lives. Because of this, food is identified as hormone or antibiotic free. The term natural is given to products that have never been given an artificial growth hormone or antibiotics to fight disease. Partially, this becomes an ethical issue for producers to be truthful. Many factory farms utilize antibiotics at a nearly constant rate to keep contagious diseases away because there are so many animals in small area, thus causing a buildup in the meat or byproducts of these ingredients. Laws and consumer demand has slowed these practices, and this issue is getting better. Lastly, let's analyze the concepts of grass-fed or free-range. Beef is commonly labeled as grass-fed. In the study of feeding systems and sensory attributes, the sensory panel was able to distinguish between cuts of grain-fed, AZ and AC, and grass-fed animals, AV and B, on the grounds of flavor characteristics. Thus, the flavor as well as the color, they were indicative of the type of feed that was provided to the animal. Partially, this comes down to want. Grass-fed animals are commonly leaner meat, but may have less flavor. In addition, eggs, chickens, or other products may be labeled as free range. This term indicates that animals have the opportunity to be in open pens or go outside. It should not be assumed they live life outdoors. It simply means they have access to it. There are so many terms that are used by marketing, but these are some very common ones, and hopefully it gives you more insight in what they mean for you and in the product that you are buying. So who creates the definitions and benefits of labels? The USDA is a major factor in assigning labels to various aspects of our food chain. The USDA is the United States governing body of the Department of Agriculture. This body is more apt to giving guidelines that mandates or rules for producers to follow. Thus, this is why there are such a variety of terms that are so similar. For example, according to the USDA, organic certification requires that farmers and handlers document their processes and get inspected every year. Organic on-site inspections account for every component of the operation, including, but not limited to seed sources, soil conditions, crop health, weed and pest management, water systems, inputs, contamination, and commonly risks and prevention, and record keeping. Tracing organic products from start to finish is a part of the USDA Organic Promise. At times, this becomes very costly for producers, and it is very difficult to follow and verify. Also, marketing firms are integral to this determining process. Marketing preys upon the consumer. Consumers are enticed with the natural products, and marketers use it to their advantage. Where many labels use various terms, as we've discussed today, it is important to realize that some of these terms are created by corporations to sell their product. So, savvy consumers need to recognize the many issues that are there with labels and food products. But even after all of these considerations and information, mostly important, it is important to understand terms to be knowledgeable about these topics so you can decide for yourself as a consumer. Things that many people would consider are health benefits. Finding a product that fits your health needs is very important. For example, Minnesota Extension explains that the way cattle are fed can impact milk, and that labels on this can show a greater nutritional value in grass-fed cows rather than grain. Research has shown that consuming organic dairy products lowers dietary intakes of omega-6 while increasing intake of omega-3 and conjugated linoleic acid, known as CLA, a heart-healthy fatty acid. Not only are health issues a reason to be aware of labels, but it reflects a person's belief standards as well. For instance, labels can also indicate the quality of life of the product, whereas there is not enough oversight to prove every situation. Labels that indicate free range may have and show a better situation for the animal. Animals that are fed natural ingredients may have a more natural growth rate than an animal that is fed hormones and other supplements to grow quickly to move in and move them out. Lastly, a budget may be a factor to consider in selecting products with labels. Consumers may be cognizant of number of pesticides that are used in apples, or how much flour might be irradiated to eliminate pests, but recognize that labels on eggs may have little to no impact on the quality and health benefits. Therefore, knowledge may impact your health considerations, belief standards, and budgeting needs. So, in conclusion, I hope that additional insight has been given to you understand the basic terminology of meat and produce at the grocery, identify how labels are assigned and by whom, and perhaps the extent that labels identify harmful or beneficial factors, and lastly, to be able to make a decision for themselves as consumers. Each one of us has personal considerations as we select food for ourselves and for our families. As the markets become more and more selective, we too can make choices that are best for our health, our budget, and the world.